Hey everybody, welcome to episode 48 of Between the Lanes. I'm Ralph.
I'm Ron.
All right, we got the usual shit this week, so let's get to it.
Oh, we get an S-bomb right off the bat. All right, so as usual, find us on YouTube, and then you can find us on Facebook, and we'll get right into the winning race results reports. AWRA was at the slot car track in Concord, North Carolina last weekend, and they raced legends and stock cars. And Byron Peacock in the center there was your winner. Shane Parent was second, and Charles Eldridge was third. And that was the podium in both legend and stock car. And then in the sportsman class, Charles was the winner. Shane was second, and Byron was third. Down in Argentina, they had the, I really don't know how you say this. I call it CEFESA. That's the organization. They had their national championships. Don't know the name of the raceway, but this was the track that they raced on. And
now that looks like a cool track.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. So as I get into this, that's looking at one end of it, and that's looking at the other end of it. So, 6-lane track, no problem with that. Basically, just one kind of flat turn coming where this yellow car is. I think this is kind of fairly flat, but everything else has a little bit of banking to it. So, the cars are like a Eurosport GT12, spring steel laser EDM cut type chassis, and they run high downforce GTP bodies on them. So, in the Group 12 class, the winner was Ioanni Maccheroni, I believe is how we say his name. Mariano Grimoldi was second, and Mario Carrero was third. And then they also run the same type of car with a Group 27 motor in it. So David was the winner. Facundo was second, and Mario again was third in the Group 27 class. So, kind of going back. And in the Group 12 class, they had 56 entries, and in the 27 class, which is like a new class for them, they had 33 entries. And, in the past, like discussions on Facebook, things come up like a economy Eurosport type class or whatever, and, years ago when I started racing Eurosport, we pretty much was racing Group 27 motors. Then we got into open type wines and, smaller setups and stuff. But I think we're, in this day and age, in the United States, the Eurosport situation, there's just a handful of guys that race Eurosports. And I think more guys might get into it if there was some sensible rules as far as like some kind of motor picked on economic reasons. You might get more guys to race. And
Eurosport Light.
Yeah, or something like that. Years ago they had it with Cobalt 12 motors, and it wasn't really that great. But, I mean, if you kind of took the Group 27 light motor rule, single magnets, Group 27 armature, you might be onto something. So, and again, everybody in the States, they want to run on a flat track. But I think if you race these type of cars on bank tracks, you open the opportunity to more racers wanting to do it. So, just 2 cents. Down in South Africa, they had their national championships in Cape Town at the newly opened Race World track there that's in the mall down there. And that's a picture of the track. And they ran several races. And GT12 was won by Gustav Heyman with Colin Lote second, and Robert Strassen was third. Production 124th was won by Colin. Salif Fortune was second, and Gustav was third. In the scale 124th class, Peter Grobler was your winner. I don't know about second or third. And they had races on Friday and Saturday, and so they did a lot of duplication from the race results that I kind of picked up off Facebook. So they had a enduro race, team enduro race. I think it was on Thursday, and Gustav and Anthony Bithry was the winning team. Manfred and Robert Straussen and Peter and Troy was the second place team. And the third place was Colin, Johan, Dave, and Craig. And Sport 32nd was won by Robert Strassen. And then on Friday, they ran like GT12, and Wahid Fortune was the winner. Production 24th on Friday, Robert Stassen was the winner. And then they ran another scale 24th class on Friday, and Gustav won that race. So I don't know which race was more important, Saturday races or Friday races, but there was like first and second races, and kind of confusing, and to me it was, but that was all the winners. So, and then 2 weeks ago, we kind of missed this, but we'll give credit where credit due. They had the annual Bullet 500 down at Bullet Raceway in Louisville, Kentucky. Actually, Louisville, but it's just south of Louisville. And Skip Bennett was the winner. Harvey Newton was second. Bobby Nally was third. Stephen Newton was fourth. And Raymond Smith was fifth. And those were hard body 9-second breakout cars on the King track, I believe. And then they had the 6 hours of Retro Rama in the UK. And the winning team was Rockingham with Sandy Grant, Gavin Wills, Steve Taylor, and Mike Thompson. The second place team was Wilmington on the Sea with Will Stenman, Bob Hollums, Danny, and Steve Kempson. And the third place team consisted of Peter Kerr, I believe it was Gary King, Dave Stevenson, and Tony Mills. And they also ran a Can-Am race, which Gavin Wills was the winner, Murray Wallace was second, and Mike Thompson was third in that. And that's the winner chicken dinner report from last week.
Sunday.
Right on cue, as always. So this Sunday we got the annual Retro East Enduro at Speed Zone, 6-hour race, GT Coupe cars. We've got the King of the Cobra Enduro at the Slot Car Track in Concord. And B&E Hard Body Enduro, that's part of their Enduro series at Mid-America. On July 18th, we got the Pacific Coast Championships at Slot Car Raceway. And July 26th, we got the Retro Race of Champions at Mid-America Raceway, Naperville. Do you know who these two are, Ralph?
Yeah, I just forget their damn names, though.
Okay.
Give me, what's one of them's name?
Peabody.
Oh, Peabody and, as soon as you say it, I'm going to be like, oh, I didn't think of that.
It's all elementary, Watson. No, that was Sherlock.
Yeah, that was Sherlock Holmes.
Sherman.
There, okay, Sherman. Peabody and Sherman. Okay. Yeah,
It's
been a while since I've seen them.
Because last week Shane had no clue like who these guys were. So kind of different generation. I mean, these guys were big when I was a little boy.
Oh yeah. They were big when I was a kid too.
Yeah, you had Peabody and Sherman, and you had Rocky and Bullwinkle
and Pinky and the Brain.
No, that was after them.
Yeah, but that was like a famous twosome though.
Okay.
Know? We're talking about twosomes, like
okay.
Batman and Robin.
Ren and Stimpy.
Beavis
and Butthead.
I liked Rocky and Bullwinkle though.
Yeah, they were cool. And there was Natasha and never mind. So we're going to go way back to 1993. And this will probably
What was the number one song of the year in 1993?
I have no idea.
Oh, come on, give me a guess.
Something Bon Jovi, maybe?
Bon Jovi?
Yeah.
Eh,
They were pretty big.
no.
They were kind of big in that time.
No.
Well, what genre are we talking about?
I just mean
Number one overall?
of the year.
Wow. 1993 is kind of a blur to me. So why don't you share that number one song of 1993?
It'd be Whitney Houston.
Oh, really?
I Will Always Love You.
Okay. I will always love you too, Ralph.
Do you know what else happened in 1993?
Lots of stuff. I'm going to tell you about lots of stuff happened in 1993 here in a minute.
More importantly, I turned 7 years old.
Oh, you were 7. Okay. Well, you couldn't have read one of these magazines if we'd have handed it to you, probably. 7 years old. So 25 years ago, about this time of year, 25 years ago.
But I'd have looked at the pictures, though.
There you go. So, and this is probably going to be kind of a continuing series because this is kind of easy and fun to do. So, and we can take one issue at a time. But 1993 was the summer of 1993, August to be exact, was the first issue, the premiere of Slot Car Bulletin magazine, which was edited and produced and published by Paul Mayers, who was a longtime slot car racer out of the Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania area to be exact. And I started racing with Paul like in Tri-State USRA in probably like 1984, 1985-ish.
Uh-huh.
And he raced, and then at some point he decided to start a magazine. And of course we had John Ford's Scale Out of Racing News at the time, and but Paul kind of went a little bit more racer-oriented type magazine with more race reports than anything in the content. If you understand what I'm saying. So
I'm sure you know this, but who's that on the cover?
That is the late John Laster.
Okay.
Team Cayman racer, former national and world champion. Did you know that was John Laster?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, one of the races was the Western States Championship for 1993, and this was held out in California, Fast Tracks in Oxnard, California. I went there. I went to Oxford, I think. I'd have to go look it up. But I think it was after this race. They had another race. Because I took a trip out. Well, this race, I'm looking for a date. Okay, this race was in April. So I was out there the following June because I went out and did the Seattle Slugfest.
And they still do Western States Championship races, but not the same classes.
Right. Yes. So I went out there and did the Seattle Slugfest, then flew to San Francisco and visited a whole bunch of raceways for a few days, and then went down to
Now I remember watching some of the Slugfest races. I say watching when like Paul Cassins would do them. Almost live coverage, Yeah,
that would have been later. Yeah.
Yeah. It was good. Yeah, it was right. It was later than that, but
so at the 1993 Western States Championship race, there was 164 racers or drivers. They came from all over. Keith Keeler from New York, Dennis Kirshner and John Pierce from Michigan, Jim Mayer and Mike Swiss from Illinois, Dan Donegan, Pfeiffer, and Al Harley from Wisconsin, and guys there from Arizona, Oregon, Nevada. So it was a pretty big, and at that time, Buford, Paul Patterson Buf, and Sherry kind of managed the raceway. So large draw. The track was really fast. It was a brand new King track. I don't remember who built it, but they always had a good crowd. So Rich Jorgensen was the winner in box stock. Doug Shepard was the winner in International 15. Sherry Pedersen won 27. Paul Pedersen won Group 7. And then 132nd Eurosport was won by Bob Maxwell. So it was a 155-foot Ogilvy King track. And then you had the Zeppelin 500 in June of 93, and Mike Muir was the WOMP winner. Juan Dagma was the GTP winner. Benny Justice won Box Stock 15. Keith Keeler won International 15. Al Pollock won 27. Bob Jekyll won Semi-Pro. And David Liebenthal won the Pro race.
Wow.
And that might have been the third or fourth Zeppelin 500. And then, Paul always had like track tests in the magazine. So, in this particular, the first issue, he does ready to run mean ready to race, which of course.
Obviously means Ralph Thorne Racing, but go ahead.
7 years old. So I thought what was interesting in this article, there really wasn't much in the article to really talk about, but look at those prices in 1993. Flexi cars were basically $29.95 to $31.95 with bodies on them. Of course, if you had the Hot Flexi option, it was nickel more, or the World's Edition, and then the starter sets with or without a turbo controller. And at the top, there was the Flexi car prices assembled without a body at $25.95. So, here we are 25 years later, excuse me. And ready-to-run cars are like, what, $80 now for a ready-to-run Flexi car?
I mean, some of them are more, some of them are like 90.
Right. But, I think the lower price is right around
Sure. Right.
So, yeah. So, but things go up over time, so.
Yeah, it's really not a bad price increase from then to now, really.
Yeah, I didn't think. I should have probably ran the inflation calculator on it and seen if it stayed up with inflation all those years. But anyway, so then Paul Mayers, who also did the magazine, he also ran the Keystone USRA, and they had their championship race at RGO, Rick Bernardo's RGO Speedway, in May of 1993 on the American King that had been redone by Damon Dupron. That's probably a name that rings a bell with you. Yeah. And, they ran a lot of classes, like in youth production. Mark Major was the winner. In the stock car class, Dave Montgomery. 124th production was Mark Olzik. Outlaw 12 was J.R. Moyer. GTP was Ron Hirschman, which GTP was actually Eurosport 24th. And they ran the GTP class as two classes in one. Well, I guess maybe there was three classes because GTS was
GT12 and GT10.
Yeah, and GT12 was GT12, and then I guess GT10 was some kind of Group 10 class mixed in. And that was the first time I ever ran Eurosport on a King track. And I think the second time I ran Eurosport on a King track was at RGO Raceway a few years later when we ran the King track in the backwards direction, which at this race we ran it in the normal direction. Lots of carnage. International 15 was won by Carl Moyer. Dan Ebert won Group 27, and John Strachan won the Group 7 race. Parma Challenge Cup series was in Canada, in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. It was in a basement of a Sheraton Inn hotel. Jason DeHate, he was kind of hot, and he won 3 of the 4 classes. But we raced Womp Womps, and we raced Group 10, 4.5-inch stock car, and GTP. And I remember that the Group 10 class was a handout motor. And Jason went there, and he was really fast. And there were some people claiming that he either pulled a special motor, had a special motor. And, it goes back to the guy that was complaining was probably half a second slower than Jason.
Now this guy's got the coolest nickname ever, Racing Jason.
Racing Jason. So there was like this controversy, okay, and I was there representing Parma at the time, and
Wait a minute, a controversy? You were there and involved?
It had nothing to do with me, but anyway, so these guys were complaining about Jason's motor, because again, it wasn't the motor, it was the car. So anyway, so this guy complaining, he was kind of the spokesman for a little group. I said, well, why don't you let Jason run your car? He says, well, my car is so slow. And I said, just let Jason run your car. Well, Jason actually went faster with that guy's car than Jason did with his own car.
Yeah, Jason was a good driver.
Yeah. So then the guy was kind of happy, but he still thought Jason had too fast a motor. So they want him to pick another motor. And I said, okay, he can pick another motor. And if it's faster than the motor he has now, he's still going to race it. So do you want him to pick another motor or not? So they were like, yeah, he needs to pick another motor. So took the motor out of his car, picked another motor, and it ran the same speed. So, and Jason, it was still a close race, but some of those guys up there just weren't, they had just started racing and they were kind of behind a little bit. So there you go. And then down in at Victory Lane in South Carolina, there was the Mid-Atlantic USRA race. And who's the guy on the left there, Ralph?
Fred Yonkin.
Okay. Did you look at the name printed, or did you just know him by looking at him?
There it is. You know what? He looks a lot younger, but he kind of still looks the same.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, he was younger for sure.
I don't know the two guys next to him, though.
Okay, yeah. That was Scott and Randy Pullman. So anyway, so there's another name you'll like. Snake Swindle was your winner in scale NASCAR. Scott
He
Perlman.
sounds like a sprint car driver.
Well, Snake was pretty famous back then. I mean, he won a lot of races back then. So
Snake Swindell coming in on the high side.
Swindell, yeah. Scott Perlman won the Group 10. Randy Perlman won the NASCAR Flexi race. Tom Norris won Outlaw 12. Fred Yalkin won Box Stock 15.
There's Teddy Hoots is in there.
Teddy Hoots is in there. Bob Cotton won International, and Bob Cotton won Group 27. So it's always fun to kind of look back at some of these names and like, wow, those guys are still racing, so.
Okay, so here's a question. Beach Button. Is that by any chance Drew Button of Beach Customs?
Beach? Where do you see that at?
Scale NASCAR, third place, Beach Button.
Well, yeah. I believe that was I don't think it was Drew.
Okay.
I think Drew took the business over from another Button. I could be wrong, but I think that's what happened.
Okay.
Oh, you know what? Maybe no. I think Andrew Button. Isn't that his name? I think so. Anyway, moving on. And then he had the Ohio Challenge Cup race down at Max Tom Thumb in Columbus, Ohio. See, it was Max now it's just Tom Thumb, but
right.
And I thought we might have a total entries, but there's no total entries. But Junior Group 10, Jason Huff was your winner.
Where it says there was 20 in Group 10.
20 in Group 10, and Bob Kurkowski won pretty big that day. Let's see, who else is Al Rudy's in there. GTP was won by Brett Thornsberry, and Dave Smirka's in there, and
Rob Garland.
I
think he's in there twice. Bob Garland must. Yep. Is that his dad or is that a misprint?
No, Rob is Rob.
Okay.
It's probably a misprint.
Okay.
And then
there's Bob Floka.
Bob Floka. Yep. So, and I don't know who won the production 124th race.
It's amazing how many of these names and all these race reports people are really still around racing,
Right. So, and then at that time, RJR had just released. Well, I shouldn't say it just had, but they advertised for quite a while. I mean, a few months earlier to this, they come out with their new C-Can motor and their International 15.
Those are sassy single magnets.
Sassy singles. And then there was the C can, CEE. So, yep. And that's all I got from 25 years ago.
That's all, folks.
For this episode. So, okay, so let's I don't know why we're going to that. Well, we can go to that. So we'll go back to what I was thinking. So not this weekend, but next weekend, July 21st at noon, will be the opening of sign-ups for the 24 Hours of Ohio FNRS Endurance Championship race. Attempt at breaking the record. And so tune in. Next week we'll talk more about that. I'm sure there'll be more details, but
see, now last time I was on the show,
okay,
we were just jacking around and talking about cool things, and then bam, the race ended up happening.
Sure.
So I want to bring this up.
Okay.
I got an idea. How we can make slot car racing great again, like the endurance race.
Okay.
After the first heat, the leader has to take a shot. And at the end of every heat, the leader takes a shot. That way, by like the 8th heat, like things should be pretty like equaled out, you know?
Well, maybe or maybe not, because the one team could lead the first heats and their team.
I just mean racing, period. Not the endurance race.
Well, I was actually, and I don't even know where this idea came from. I thought, what if we had a race and you ran so long and you had to stop and everybody had to take a shot. And then you had to run again so long and everybody had to take another shot. And,
wow.
You know, how messed up would – because I've seen hot dog races where you got to race and go eat a hot dog and you got to eat the hot dog. But Joey Chestnut's not welcome to run that.
Yeah.
Because he'd make up time on the hot dog.
I mean, like, why don't we have a race where it's just, like, stripper-only corner marshals?
Oh, boy. Hooters girls. Now, there's been races in the past where where track owners have got local Hooter girls come in and do marshaling. So I've seen that.
That should be, like, all the time.
Right. Okay, so not to change the subject, but to go back to the 25-year thing. It's like, okay, all those names you've seen and all those guys still race. Some of those guys, they don't race as hot and heavy now as they did then, but then there's some guys that race more hot and heavy now than they did then too. So,
right.
To me, or I'm going to ask you this question. So if I don't know which question to ask first, but I'll make the statement. So if you have guys that race for 25 years, is that a hobby or a sport?
Let's see. I mean, you know, that's hard for me to answer because.
Or is that an addiction?
Because it's really neither one for me. Like.
Okay.
I mean, for me, this is my life, really.
Right. Yeah, we're kind of exceptions.
You know, so. You know, I don't know. I mean, I'd have to say, I mean, it's probably more than a hobby at that point. It becomes, if not a sport, an obsession or something, you know?
Okay. Or does it kind of somewhat become family? Because, you know, like every race is kind of a family reunion to.
Well, yeah, definitely. Definitely. I mean, that's always part of going racing. I mean, other than competition, I mean, there's a lot of people that go just to see other people, you know?
Right.
People that'll go that won't even race.
Right.
Go to see people. So it becomes like a really large dysfunctional family over time, you know?
Right.
So, I mean, you know, I've made lifelong bonds with people that are now my best friend, you know, best friends. And not, you know, I wouldn't have met them if I wasn't slot car racing, you know?
Right. But you might have found something closer to home. I guess, you know, like, you know, okay, so what possesses a guy to get in a car and drive 3 hours to go hang out with his buds at the slot car track and race, and drive 3 hours back home. I mean,
I can tell you why I do it, but
hey, go ahead and tell us.
Because I want to win.
Okay, but I'm just saying you could stay home and win. You know what I mean? So, I mean, the competition level is usually a little bit bigger or higher at
Right.
the regional races. You know,
Right.
so yeah, I think everybody goes to the races, travels to races, feel that they can win or feel that they're competitive enough to win. You know, like
See, I don't think so.
I think a larger percentage do. Okay, like yeah, I've known guys that race for 10, 15, 20 years, went to out of town race every month, never won a race, and probably was never going to win a race unless it's a lot of faster, better prepared, better driving racers had problems all at the same time.
Sure. Right. Yeah.
But those guys obviously came. I mean, I think they probably knew they weren't going to win, but I think they always had that thought in the back of their mind. If everything was to go just right, I could win.
Right. Absolutely.
So I mean, it was like just a little bit ago on Facebook. They're bringing back the MTT track from Canada, and I think it was Russ Martin made a comment that something about that track will make you a driver. Or real drivers. This is a track for real drivers. Okay, and like by the time you think you are a real driver and you got the track down pat, when the big race comes, there's going to be a bunch of guys come in that show you that you're really not a real driver.
Tell you what a real driver looks like.
Yeah, because I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, Russ and all them guys will have an advantage to have that track right there, run a zillion laps on it, get the track figured out. But that's just part of it. I mean, you got to get your cars figured out, know what little change here and there does to make your car better or worse.
I would put a wager on the line that no local racers win a flat track race in the Nats.
Okay. So anybody out there that wants to take Ralph up on this bet, message Ralph.
$10, 10 PayPal bucks.
10 PayPal bucks. Well, I think it depends on a lot of things, but I mean, yeah, I mean, it will be tough for probably a local to win. But I think
if they're good, I just think the people from out of town, they might be just as good, but they'll have better equipment because they have more experience.
Well, equipment and experience are going to play into it, but I could see like Walker doing real well, possibly winning. But time's going to tell. I mean, depends on how he applies himself and what he aligns himself with equipment wise and stuff like that. So, I thought it was kind of impressive last week. Walker went to Bent Wrench Raceway. And they had I think it's a 4 or 5 lane track. I've seen pictures of it, but I don't really remember. And they ran some kind of hard body cars. And he won. I mean, that was kind of impressive and it was a twisty little road coursey kind of thing. I mean, it wasn't like it was an oval track or something like that. And he beat the locals there, which, he borrowed cars and stuff. So don't know all the details of the race, but, I just thought it was impressive that he went somewhere he had never been before. And ran against a bunch of guys that run there quite often, and he wound up in a winner's circle. So it was kind of impressive. So, but he's got some hard body experience running them down there at the slot car track.
Right.
So, and maybe he had his own cars. I don't know. I was just saying that I think he probably borrowed some stuff because I think they run dirt late models. And I think they're styrene bodies. So.
I mean, it goes for anything, but, no matter how bad you think you are, there's somebody better.
Right. Well, I know. Right. Yeah. You think you're the best at something, and at some point somebody comes along and beats you up a little bit. But that makes you go back home and do your homework and strive to go back and do better.
Yeah, that's part of it.
Right. So, yep. So we got some stuff to give away.
We do. We got 2 Mid-America Phoenix motors, an oil of the now world famous BDR lube from Bud Denning, and I got to give away a couple RTR NASCAR decal kits. So I guess we'll do like 4 or 5 things total.
Okay. Well, how many decal kits you giving away?
3 or 4, whatever. But they can just go to like 3 or 4. Just go to one person.
That brings you up. Oh, you're gonna do. Okay.
Just give like one person will get 4.
Okay.
And then one person will get the bottle of lube.
Okay. So 4 winners. What are we drawing for first?
I'll do a Phoenix motor.
And the winner of the first Phoenix motor would be Roger Cleveland.
Okay.
He's in Tennessee, isn't he?
Tennessee, yep. All right.
Next.
We'll do the BDR lube.
Your winner, Bud Denning, is Brian X-Pro Cochran.
And there you go.
From Port Jeff Raceway. So that's B.
And if you win the lube or the decal kits, contact me. I got them to ship out. But if you didn't win and you want to buy the lube, call Bud. All right, now we'll do my decal kits. 4 of them, 4 random decal kits, whatever I send you.
Michael Colvin.
There you go.
Contact Ralph.
God, I almost gave away a Phoenix motor just then. I almost said it was for a Phoenix motor. All right, so that last one was for a Phoenix motor.
The last Phoenix motor of the day goes to, oh my God.
No, it's fucking rigged.
Dan Myers finally wins.
Good, now he can shut up.
My name is not in the bucket.
All right.
Hey, Dan wins.
Well, contact Roger for your Phoenix motor. So
get a hold of Roger. Well, he might be going to Rogers in a couple of weeks for the rock race. I don't know that for sure, but maybe.
Okay.
So,
what else we got?
Trying to think. I talked about stuff last week, and I mean, you know that Tri-State Raceway in Middletown is now under new ownership. Frank Ferlay.
Frank Ferlay, yeah.
Frank Sarkala is trying to sell his
Rapid Raceway is trying to sell.
Rapid Raceway is trying to sell. I could have swore I seen another raceway for sale in the last day or two, but I can't think of. I don't know if you know, it's not Dallas Slot Cars. The new drag strip it might be done by the time we get done with this show. I mean,
okay, I hadn't heard that.
Yeah, well, I think yesterday, I think on Facebook, I think I read basically it was ready for paint and braid. So, and then just wire it.
Okay.
In the building, the inside interior improvements are almost completed. So then I'll move the flat track in.
Cool. It'll be exciting to see another track back up in action.
Yep. And
hopefully their new location does good for them.
Yeah. And like I said, there was another raceway I could have sworn, but I can't remember. I should have wrote it down, but another one was opening up. So,
all right, I got one thing.
All right.
Seems like we always get people to ask us to.
Here we go.
No, this isn't that bad. So, guys.
And girls.
And girls. Most of the time, we're not actually at the races that we provide coverage on, so we can't tell you. We can't take pictures of the cars and the controllers and things like that. We don't actually have all that. We're just taking what's online and trying to make sense of it and to show you something.
Right.
So, I mean, we don't, what Billy used in Czechoslovakia for his gear ratio, we got no idea.
Right.
We don't know what chip he had in his controller.
Right.
Or hub size he ran. So.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, a lot of that stuff never really gets released anymore. You know.
Right. I mean, I understand. Be cool to see all that. I get it. I know, but we just have no way of bringing all that to you.
I mean, back in the day.
Back in the day, right. But
you buy a magazine and it would have printed text sheets with some of that information. You know, we wouldn't know the hub size or.
Right. But I mean, we're showing you as many races in 1 week as they did in like 1 or 2 months, though. Too, you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. I mean, yeah. Back 25 years ago, if you want to know who won the Western States Championship race when it happened, either you called the raceway the day after to find out who won all the classes.
You'd send somebody a page.
Or you would get a hold of somebody who was at the race, or you would wait for the magazine to come out a month or 2 later to find out what happened. Because, I mean, even like in 93, I mean, the internet was very, wow, it just, a lot of people didn't even have computers in 1993. I know that's hard to believe, but that was like a luxury item.
That was part of like what the magazine, what made the magazine so good to me is like the allure of you saw these people in a magazine like they're superstars, you know, like it's like going to the grocery store and you pick up a Hot Rod magazine or whatever, you know what I mean? It's like, wow, this guy's in a magazine, you know, like he must be really good.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking that because when I'd go into my local raceway when I was 14 or 15, and first thing I do is I'd go up to the counter and be like, okay, do you have a new magazine in? You know, and I remember seeing guys like you and Mike Swiss and Buf and all those guys on the cover, you know, and I was like, wow, I hope I get to meet these guys one day, you know. It was a cool thing to see back then to have those magazines, you know. Yep. But now, you know, we're in the age of instant gratification, instant access. I mean, that's kind of gets lost, I think, nowadays, you know.
Right. You know, and like you know, when I go to races and I cover them, or I'm doing it, you know, like BRS race or a Great Lakes race or FNRS race. You know, I take pictures of the winners and, you know, bottoms of the chassis and all that stuff. But I mean, I don't take pictures of controllers, and we don't really do text sheets. And I mean, it's easy. I mean, some groups, you know, they do take pictures of text sheets and they post the pictures of the text sheets and stuff. But it just takes more time to upload all that stuff, and I just don't know if it's really all that important anymore. And I think, okay, so like 25 years ago, if I seen that Keith Keeler won this race, if I didn't have Keith Keeler's phone number, I had no way to contact him to maybe ask him questions. Well, now with Facebook, if you see pictures of 3 cars, there's Ron and Ralph and Shane, you want to know more details about Ralph's car, you send Ralph a private message, or send Ron a private message, or send Shane a private message and say, okay, so...
And it happens every day.
Right. So the lines of communication to find out what certain people ran at races is when, and back in the day, I mean, with text sheets, people would put one brand on a text sheet and race a different brand. I mean, the text sheets were not 100% truthful, would be the word I would use. So,
and a lot of people still try to do that now. I think that's stupid, but
right. Well, because they're tied in with somebody or whatever. But I always told my guys, if you're going to run something else, don't lie. Put down what it is. Or I said, don't put down that you're running fast ones if you're going to run something else. Either put down what you're running or just leave it blank. So that's how I was.
Like I remember people would do when they say what kind of tires you run, they put black round ones.
Right.
It's like whatever.
Gear ratio not available.
Yeah, not available. Still downloading.
Stuff like that. Yeah. So, and even back in the day, I mean, not every winning car had a picture taken of it and put in the magazine. You know what I'm saying? So you just look at the tech sheet and you're like, you visualize, okay, this guy ran this chassis with this motor, and didn't mean he did, but you don't have a picture either to see exactly what he ran. So very few winning cars where pictures were posted. I mean, as we go down the road with this deal, we'll show where there could be 20 races reported in the magazine, but there's only pictures of 5 winning cars. And, Paul would just take the 5 biggest races or whatever the biggest races were and post the winning cars. And it may not, a big race, 5 guys win 5 classes. He might only put in the Group 7 car from that particular race. And then the next race, they had 5 classes. He might just put the International 15 winner in that. You know what I mean? So,
right.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, I always try and do my best to take pictures of all the cars on the bottom side and put them up on Facebook. And I said, if people have specific questions, they can always message the winning drivers or, whoever cars they are and ask them questions. Because I know I see a lot of times, like on the Mazzetti page, a lot of people ask, what's the tape on the bottom of the chassis for? And I think they usually get a reply. So, it's kind of different.
It's like nowadays, it's like if you have an advantage, you really just have an advantage for like maybe one race, maybe.
Yeah.
That's about it,
Right. Yep.
And everyone, like people ask me like, what's the secret? Or they want you to build them a car and you build them a car and it's like, or I'll sell one of mine and
right.
Yeah, but how come it's not really like yours? Or what's the secret? It's like there is no secret.
Right, and you can sell a guy. You can sell a guy a winning. Yeah, you can sell a guy a winning car you just won with, but that doesn't mean he's going to win with it.
Right.
So, but I mean, it does. Like I always said, when I go to race and someone says, "Here, try my car," and let's just say they're half a second slower. And I take their car and I can go as faster with their car than I have with my own car. That shows to them they've got a competitive car. Now, if they're a half a second slower, that's on them to figure out where to make their car, which is as fast as the other car, it's up to them to make that car go the same speed. And I think a lot of guys, I don't know if happy is the right word. I think a lot of guys feel relieved when they find out their car is just as good as the fast guy.
Yeah, I agree.
Because at least they know they are on the right track as far as if they've put their car all together themselves. They've obviously picked the right pieces. It's got guide flag spacing closer right there and everything else. So the difference is their driving. And
right.
that's what they have to work on.
All right, so what's the secret word of the show this week?
Well, let's just go Slot Car Bulletin, being as we kind of opened that can of worms.
Okay. SCB, Slot Car Bulletin?
Yeah, SCB, Slot Car Bulletin.
Now you're asking everybody to know how to spell bulletin.
Well, I might have trouble spelling SCB.
There you go. All right.
So, ever tell you the time I was in the spelling bee?
I think so, yeah.
Oh, 6th grade. So,
yeah, I think so, because I was in the spelling bee too.
Well, anyway, so I'm in the spelling bee, right? So It was kind of weird how I got, because I was not the teacher's first pick to be in.
Let me guess. There was a controversy.
No. So I was not the teacher's first pick to be in the spelling bee. And I don't know where I was down the list.
Uh-huh.
There were kids smarter than me in the class, okay?
Okay.
So whoever the second pick wasn't quite up to the teacher's expectations when it came to spelling. So the teacher then kind of stopped, and she got the class's attention and asked the rest of us, like, okay, said the word who can spell it, and I raised my hand and I spelled it. So then she does the next word, and I raise my hand and spell. I'm like the only one to raise my hand.
What were the words? Do you remember?
No, I don't remember the words. So I do this for 5 or 6 words in a row, and no one else is raising their hand. Like, no one else is even taking a stab at these words. So she's like, all right, come over here with the other kid, and we go off in the corner, and we're having this, I don't know, audition or whatever. So we're doing pretty good. So then the day of the spelling bee, we go down, and we're in front of all the kids in the school in the cafeteria. And there's two students from each of the 6th grade class. There was 8 of us. So they decided to have a test round. You know, you get a word, get up, and because, you know, like, everyone's nervous. So I come up, and I'm nervous as hell, you know. So, you know, there was some kind of protocol, like, okay, your word is blue. Please spell blue. And then you would say, my word is blue, and then you would spell the word. So I came up, and they go, your word is dog. How simple of a word, you know, for you know, like a
DAWG.
So I was like so nervous. I was like, dog, GOD. So my teacher, because she's like one of the judge on the panel, she just looks at me like.
She probably thought you were fucking with her.
No. I said, no, excuse me. I said, dog, DOG. And I was warned. If that had been a round, you would have been disqualified. So
wow.
I made it through 3 rounds, and then they got into words, dude, that I couldn't even pronounce at that time.
Wow.
So, and it came down to these 2, and the one kid was a brainiac, and the girl was, you know, if he was number 1 out of 200 students, she was number 2. Oh, they went back and forth for probably close to an hour and a half before he finally won. Right. Because, I mean, they got to the point where they were skipping to higher grade words. Right. And these were words that these 2 had really never heard of. I mean, these were words you wouldn't hear till you got into high school or college. But they were pretty good at sounding them out and spelling them out. So. Right. So, yeah. GOD, dog. Yeah. You could have heard a pin drop, too, in the whole room when I did that.
Oh, I bet.
So, and yeah, I'd been in plays and stuff before in front of big crowds. Never really bothered me. For some reason, the spelling bee really intimidated me.
Right. Huh. So, I think maybe it's because you were in front of the crowd. I don't know, and you were the only one that was talking.
Yeah, we went up, did our thing, and sat down. The next, you know, so I don't know. But I'd been in plays where I'd been the only person up in front of everybody, and it never. So
now, what play were you in?
Well, it started in 3rd grade.
Okay. I
don't remember I don't even know if the play had like I don't know if it was a story out of a book, but okay. I was like a
princess.
No. Yeah. I was some kind of animal. I don't remember if it was a tiger or a lion, some kind of animal that could see itself like in the reflection of the water in a river.
Water, yeah. See, I never did. I was never in any kind of play. I don't remember there even being plays when I was in school until you got maybe into high school.
Right, and then in 4th grade, my 4th grade teacher, he had a split class. Half of it was 4th graders, half of it was 5th graders, and I was in the 4th grade at that time, so I was in his class. every year he put on a big play in the classroom around Halloween time. So it was a play about some kind of haunted house kind of story. I played a character named Pee Wee, who I was kind of hiding in the house with a chain, scaring everybody. Like I was part of the gang that would sneak off and scare all my friends with this chain on, banging and rattling. And then in 6th grade, I was Christopher Columbus, and I discovered America. And then that was the end of my acting career. I never was in a play after any of that.
Huh.
So I never did a talent show. Just kind of got like picked to do.
That's a very much more established acting career than I've had. So.
Okay. So I guess I wasn't very good because here I'm talking about slot cars instead of being interviewed by Entertainment Weekly or something like that. So not of any big fame.
All
right. So episode 49 will be next week.
May be here, may not be. Who knows? You never know.
Ralph may be here. Ralph may not be here. The secret word is Slot Car Bulletin.
Slot Car Bulletin.
Slot Car Bulletin. And next week, in 2 weeks, we should have a pretty special guest on the show. I talked to him today, and he was like, yeah, let's just do this and get it done. And so we'll see. It should work out. So that'll be in 2 weeks. So next week
Okay.
Maybe next week we can get Shane on the show. We can have the three of us on the show and talk about the big enduro that he will have participated in down at Slot Car Track this weekend. And have all the race results. This is like enduro weekend, like B&E and Slot Car Track and Retro East.
Yeah.
So, and next week we'll have more details on signing up for the enduro.
Okay. Sounds good to me.
All right. So everybody have a safe weekend. Have fun if you're going racing.
Yep. Be safe. Have fun. See you guys next week.
Bye-bye.